Hello again, this is Patrick from Ground to Dust, about to do a breakdown of the track Incubate from our Shift album. For reminders, let's hear what that sounds like. So here's the first version of that track, also started while still finishing up the previous album, Chronophobia, one of the first demos for Shift. It's just basically three layers. There's a synth here that is being fed by randomized MIDI notes. So the source is just a 1-bar C note that is being fed to eighth notes of randomized or randomly shifting length, shifting up anywhere randomly up to 2 octaves, then going through a randomized velocity, then a 50% chance of going up another octave, and then a chord adding an octave onto that, another randomized velocity, randomly shifting bilaterally up to 2 octaves up or down by single steps, a gate velocity curve to limit just between 20 and 40 on the velocity, and then a scale to latch it down into a C minor. So just if I were to just play a C note, this synth is running through massive X. And then through replica for delay. So that's one of the layers. The next layer is also just a looped C note, but one that is first adding an octave above it, randomized velocity, 84% chance of bilaterally randomized up or down 24 semitones, and then again to a C minor chord. So that's a pad. That is a contact pad, and that sounds like this. And then finally, the third layer is, once again, the new school reactor instrument. So altogether, those three layers sound like this. In the next version, I took those layers and started to map them out into a loose structure. The just sort of pinging synth just runs on its own. The randomized pad, I set it up to have two MIDI layers. The first without the randomized notes, and then the second with the randomized notes, both feeding into the synth, or the pad rather. And so what that means is that the first couple notes and the end are written as these are the notes I want to play, but then the rest of the song, it's making it up as it goes. So that puts in a little bit of structure and intention. So during the sort of mid-section breakdown, and then through the last half, we have the mini V playing a very basic low synth bass on an odd rhythm. But on top of that, I gave it a 12% chance to jump an octave. And then finally, another pad with some reverb and a low pass filter and then some reverb. So after that, I sent it off to David, and he did a bunch of work on it. One thing he did was he took the randomized pad and printed it to MIDI for a chunk, and then looped that chunk. So while it is randomized notes, it is a preset looping selection of randomized notes, which I think helps give it, again, more structure and definition and more sense of a specific character rather than just anything going. He also printed a bunch of selections of the MIDI notes for the pinging synth. And he added a lower pad through part of the first half. those descending notes give it a good sense of sort of dramatic trajectory, which is always good. He added some EQ motion on the bass pulse that comes in. We've also got 2 layers of isotope trash too. So distorting and distorting more is a good way to go. Then some LFOs going to some EQ functions. And he's also really pulling down the width on the bass, which is probably a good idea. But then there's some reverb afterwards to add more width back in. He added this nice sort of background sound effect of noise and air and everything. And then some kind of water sounds. By this point, I believe the song had been called Incubate, so I liked how this added a sort of churning as if you're in the womb or something. Glitch bubble, let's hear what this sounds like. Near the back half, where he added a sort of dark ambient, well, more dark and more ambient than the rest of the track section. So we have a pinging synth with it looks like he took some of the randomized notes from the other synth and put them through this hive, then ran it through 2 layers of manipulator. So it's a familiar sound coming back again with some familiar notes, but in a more evolved sort of shape. Then a very low bass throb for 2 bass synths. So there's multiple layers here of audio damages, combinant TVA distortion. Choral, that might be there just to provide some width and some motion without trying to be a full chorus sound, especially on some bass synths. Good old OTT, then going into manipulator, always a good time. And they're both running through a compressor and some EQ together. They're being used here as a single instrument. Trying to remember if I mixed them that way as well. Yeah, there were two basses. This might be the other one. Oh yeah. And so he took two synths, copied them, panned them slightly, one partially left, one partially right, and it looks like he had slightly different settings on them, maybe pitch-wise, I'm not sure, and then ran them through a single channel together with some OTT and reverb and everything. So it's a cool, spacious, detuned feeling. The only real change between that and the sort of final version is that this bass throb got more processed. It's really all there is to the track. It's relatively simple, straightforward, not a lot of layers, not a lot of things going on, just more sort of creating the space and letting it all play together. All right, that's all for today.